Is the beautiful game we love dying? Today, inspired by what Uruguay's coach Marcelo Bielsa said during his press conference, I want to talk about why, in my opinion, the game of football we all grew up loving is dying. Let's start with why I truly believe many of my generation could have potentially seen the ultimate peak of football alongside the incredible drop-off in entertainment value and the reasons for it. First off, I'm born in 1992. As a 32-year-old, I believe I might have seen the peak of football in my generation, starting with AC Milan at the time, with some of the best football players in world football in one team, a defensive unit that nearly no one could get by, and a mentality that was never going to be shook by anything that is happening on the pitch, except the UCL final 2005. But let's move on. The names on the pitch at the time were ones that are all considered legends to this day. It begins at the back with Maldini, Nesta, Cafu, then builds up into a midfield four of Pirlo, Gattuso, Seedorf, Kaká, only to be finished off by Shevchenko and Crespo up top. Teams like these would cost you multiple billions in today's market, I assume. Then it was the era of the El Clasico. I'm not talking about the game only, but the battle between Barcelona and Real Madrid on and off the pitch. Starting with the true reason as to why so many of us fell in love with football, Ronaldinho. After his transfer from PSG to Barcelona, I truly believe he was one of the most influential football players to ever grace the pitch, but at the same time, maybe sadly one of the last of his kind. A man that stepped onto the pitch with a smile on his face every single time, making us as kids and teenagers believe that he was playing because of his love for football and it being the only place where he's able to express himself and his art. His style of play was characterized by his ability to leave a man in the dust with one move silkier than the other, leading to the stands going crazy each time he did it. After that, he'd shake your hand with a smile on his face and move on to the next game to provide the same level of entertainment for the thousands in the stands and the millions watching at home. To combat this, Real Madrid had to go deep into their pockets. Building the Galacticos was no easy feat, but Florentino Perez made it happen. A man responsible for R9 Ronaldo, Zidane, Figo, Raúl, Beckham, and many other top stars to share the pitch together under the same shirt. Something that was believed to dominate world football for years to come, but it didn't last for too long as the rise of one specific style of play began to make its waves in football: tiki-taka. Barcelona, with its incredible academy facilities, seemed to have brought out a generation of football players that would dominate football in ways we hadn't seen yet, and a play style that was set to influence football on the highest level like nothing we have seen before. But there's a major difference to today's tiki-taka seen by the likes of Guardiola and his disciples. More on that later, especially with Bielsa. It was a team filled with individuals that still created moments that would make you giving standing ovations in your living room. A team willing to take risks when the time is right and execute in sheer impeccable fashion. Going back to the academy, a lot of Barcelona's starting 11 at the time came through La Masia at some point. Just to name a few: Iniesta, Xavi, Puyol, Busquets, Piqué, Fabregas, and of course, Lionel Messi. As an academy coach, you'd be happy to see one or two players make it to the professional side and even become starters. But these guys were built different, and so was their playstyle. I think the best possible way to describe it is, it felt like they were all telepathically connected. Every pass had an assigned destination, and before it was even played, the next two passes were locked in too. Couple that with something that we haven't seen enough these days: courage. And you have a team that's not only able to never allow you to touch the ball, but won't let you even come near them when you try and apply the press. All this because the players had the courage to take on a man or two, even inside their own half, to create space for their teammates in return, forcing their opponents to leave room in behind for the runners, or at least create high percentage 1v1 situations for incredible dribblers like Lionel Messi or Ronaldinho. Every Barcelona game at the time felt like a must-watch. The fear of missing out really kicked in and you were glued to the screen. Even if the opponent wasn't Real Madrid, but just a promoted side, you wanted to see the magic. It was pure theater. Now that all these players aged, left the team, or even became coaches themselves like Xavi, those days of pure entertainment are seemingly long gone. In today's age, the soulless play of football in the top leagues have led us to appreciate the chaos like we had seen during the Euros, where matches like the ones of Turkey, Georgia, Romania, or other smaller nations became fan favorites because of their true, raw nature. It was a perfect counterpart to the tiring, gouge my eyes out football from the likes of England, France, or many other top nations that seemed too scared to express themselves on the pitch and were held back by the chains of no-risk football, shifting the ball from side to side, not daring to lose possession in any matter, not daring to take any risks at all during the entirety of the game, only to be forced into the chaos by their lack of concentration defensively to try and rescue their games. England's football is the best example as to why today's football is possibly the least entertaining we have seen the sport be in a decade or more. Marcelo Bielsa, the coach of Uruguay, spoke of it in his interview after they beat Brazil to make it into the semi-finals of the Copa America. Here is his quote: "More people watch football, but it's becoming less attractive because what made the game the best game in the world is not prioritized. No matter how many people watch football, if you don't ensure that what people are watching is pleasant, it will only benefit the businesses, because the business only cares about how many people watch it. But in a few years, the players who deserved to be watched will be less and the game produced becomes less enjoyable. This current artificial increase in spectators will end. Football is not just 5 minutes of highlights. Football is more than that. It is a cultural expression. It's a way of identification." It truly felt like he was reading into my own mind. I've been speaking about this for a while now, and I really hope his interview gets more traction because it deserves it. Football used to be a sport that would get you off your feet, make you forget the daily worries with just a flick past the defender, change the entire chemistry in your brain momentarily by a shot taken from 30 yards out into the top corner, make you scream at your TV when players would go head-to-head in a heated exchange. Now it feels sanitized. It begins with interviews of players who seem completely media trained and afraid to speak their minds. It goes on in the tactics room where the coaches sit down to figure out a way to hold on to possession for 80% of the game, how they can avoid taking any risks of their defenders actually doing their job, which is to defend their goal. God forbid we lose the ball during build-up. Oh no. It even spreads to the TV screens and stadiums with VAR, where millimeter decisions are being looked at for 5 minutes before we know if a goal stands or not, taking away all the joy of celebrating a possibly immense moment for your team. And it spreads out to the higher-ups who only hire coaches with a specific playstyle that reduces the risk on their investment by playing it safe. Just look at Guardiola and every coach who work with him now getting top-tier jobs. Arteta at Arsenal, Ten Hag at Manchester United, Xavi at Barcelona, and now Maresca at Chelsea too. Everyone wants to hold on to the ball, shift it from side to side until we all fall asleep and they can just walk it into the goal. So where does this leave us as the viewer? I truly am a believer in things coming and going in waves. We had the uncontrollable beauty of players like Ronaldinho and Messi taking a game by the scruff of its neck and taking on 2, 3, 4 men to try and make something happen for their team, to now the complete opposite of it with the 90% possession or bust brigade. Here is what gives me hope though. I'll name 2 names that get you into the right mindset: Jamal Musiala and Lamine Yamal. These are names of players that, despite being so young, have had the most impact on their experienced teams. Players that are willing to take a risk, take on multiple defenders at once to create an opening for their teams. Players that get you off your seat, making you feel nostalgic when you've remembered how Ronaldinho used to do these things on a regular. These high-risk, high-reward players need to be the ones we are worshipping for years to come. These are the ones that young kids at home need to aspire to be. That's why I truly believe a major shift in football will come again one day. One coach will break the chains off his players and allow them to express themselves again and be rewarded for it. It's a high-risk, high-reward game, and I'm betting on them to bring back the joy and entertainment value into the game we love.